Breathing words, where every word comes to life.
It ends with us. Colleen Hoover.
Chapter 8. Roots and Scars. Hey everyone, how are you doing today? Grab your coffee and get comfortable somewhere, because today our conversation is going to touch on some very deep place in Lily's soul. After the way the previous chapter ended, I thought we would finally have a little bit of emotional peace in this story. Chapter 7 was extremely intense in a romantic sense. It was the chapter of Lily and Ryle's first kiss, of all that emotional chaos as they both tried to figure out exactly what they were feeling, trying to decide if it was just attraction or if it was starting to turn into something much bigger. In our last video, we experienced that intense night at Alyssa's party, remember? It was a breathtaking chapter, with Ryle finally letting his guard down and confessing that Lily makes him want to be someone different. They slept together for the first time. Well, sort of. If you didn't get it and want to know why I'm saying this, you probably missed the last video, so you need to go back to chapter 7 and watch the video to get all the details. Okay, let's continue. When we think of Ryle, we already imagine that he's one of those guys who can make your knees go weak just with a look. So imagine spending the night with him? But what happened between them on that first night together wasn't anything like what Lily had imagined. It happened in such a pure, sweet way, and Lily woke up feeling that, perhaps, love was finally breaking through his barriers. And the most interesting part is that the chapter ended in such a calm way. Both of them finally allowing a little bit of vulnerability with each other. No games, no running away, no resistance. For the first time, it felt like they were starting to build something real. But then the book does something that I honestly think is very clever. It takes all that romantic intensity from the present and throws us straight back into Lily's past. And it's not a light flashback. Quite the opposite, I gotta say. This chapter is emotionally painful because it goes so deep into a relationship with Atlas and shows how the two of them began to build a connection based not just on affection, but also on surviving together. As we know, Lily's present is always haunted by the echoes of her past. Today, Chapter 8 brings us a reality check right from the start, taking us back in time through her letters to Ellen, so we can understand where all this strength and this pain she carries in her chest comes from. But before we open another page of the story, go ahead and leave a like on this video. It helps the channel a lot and brings more people into this space where we feel every chapter together. And if this video touches you in any way, leave an emoji in the comments at the end. It's my favorite way of knowing you were here with me. Alright, now that we're all caught up on the story, let's dive straight into today's chapter. Loneliness turns into freedom. This part of the chapter starts in the present, with Lily coming home and finding Lucy crying on the couch. Lily instantly panics because it looks like a total tragedy has happened. You can almost feel those butterflies in your stomach right along with her, because Lucy's makeup is completely smudged and she is incredibly emotional. Lily's first thought? Definitely the absolute worst. She immediately starts imagining a tragedy, a horrible breakup, or even a severe illness. But the truth is almost comical. Lucy got engaged to her boyfriend, Alex. Lucy is crying as if something awful happened, but then comes the revelation that she is engaged. And of course, she's happy about it. But she actually just feels guilty because she wants to move out before their lease is up. Lily's reaction is wonderful. At first, she doesn't understand anything at all. It's like she didn't understand the reason behind all of Lucy's drama. But right away, she realizes something huge. She is going to have the entire apartment all to herself. For the first time, she starts to imagine a more independent, freer life, and inevitably, her thoughts go straight to Ryle. She comforts her friend, tells her everything is fine, and says she is happy for her. As soon as Lucy runs out the door to celebrate, Lily throws herself onto the couch and starts laughing. The whole apartment just for her. She's thinking that now they can have all the privacy in the world when they decide to take the next step. But then, she remembers something. It's already Monday, and Ryle hasn't given any sign of life since Saturday. She gave him her number. They agreed to a trial run for their relationship, but the phone remains completely silent. I found this part so incredibly human. She tries to act like she is totally fine with this trial run situation between them, but clearly, she isn't. It's been 2 days since they decided to try something together, and she is already frustrated that he hasn't texted. And let's be honest, who hasn't been there? Who has never left someone on read or been left on read themselves? She tries to fake emotional maturity, pretending to be this super rational person who won't sit around waiting for a man to call, but at the same time, she is thinking about him 24/7. Well, to avoid falling into the trap of texting him first, she decides to occupy her mind with the memories of her first love. Classic Lily, right? So, she decides to do what she always does when her head gets cluttered. She goes through the letters she used to write to Ellen. And that's when we plunge right back into her memories with Atlas. The garden. We dive back into the diaries, and 15-year-old Lily tells us about a special day with Atlas in the backyard. It's such a visual scene for us. You can almost smell the soil and the fertilizer while we're reading this. Atlas was helping her in the garden, and they start talking about why she loves growing things so much. Sometimes it's these exact tiny scenes that make a connection between characters feel so real. Atlas asks questions about gardening and shows a genuine interest in the things she likes, and Lily realizes something big. He is probably the first real friend she has ever had. And that hurts a little, because she admits she could never bring friends over because of her father, meaning she never got to live a normal teenage life. So Atlas becomes the first person who truly knows parts of her that nobody else does. Lily is preparing the garden for winter, covering the soil with fertilizer and compost to protect the plants from the snow, and Atlas insists on helping her. I love the vibe of this scene. It's a beautifully simple moment. No major events, no explosive drama, no exaggerated romance, just the two of them together caring for the earth, talking as the cold slowly begins to roll in. I really love how these letters function within the story, because it feels like Lily can be completely honest when she's writing. It's almost as if she's talking to an invisible friend who will never judge her. Lily explains that plants are fair. If you love them the right way, they reward you with flowers and fruits. But what Atlas says next cuts us right to the core. It's something that's hard to explain, because he's like something from another world. Sometimes he brings up stuff where even I don't get how a young boy can think this way, you know? He says humans are the same way. We need to be loved the right way to survive, but when we are neglected, we end up broken with nowhere to go. And then, when Lily looks at this massive oak tree in her backyard and talks about how trees are strong enough to grow all on their own without needing anyone's help, she was talking about him, guys. It was like she wanted Atlas to know that she saw that strength in him. When he smiles, looks at her and says, "We're similar, you and I." Lily's heart, and ours too, let's be honest, gets this beautiful, warm feeling. Right there, in the middle of the yard, playing and getting dirty in the soil, Lily realizes that she was experiencing true affection for the very first time. She felt a connection she knew went way beyond a simple friendship. In this first letter, she starts by talking about something seemingly silly, names. But the topic gradually gets deeper. She mentions her great-grandfather, nicknames, and how names carry stories, until she finally asks Atlas where his name came from. His response completely shifts the mood. He just looks at her and says, "It's too late to ask my mother that." Honestly, that sentence sounds small, but it carries so much weight. In that moment, Lily realizes that she has known Atlas for weeks, but at the same time, she still knows almost nothing about his life. She doesn't know exactly why he lives in that abandoned house, what happened to his mother, or how he even ended up in that condition. At the same time, you can tell she wants to know not out of empty curiosity, but because she has truly started to care about him. But the cold is hitting Maine harder and harder, and it starts to terrify her. It's one thing to know someone is living in an abandoned house during the autumn, but it's an entirely different thing to imagine that same person trying to survive there during the winter. The way she starts worrying about the small things, like blankets, a heater, food, makes it crystal clear that her feelings for him crossed the line of friendship a long time ago, right? Then comes a conversation that I found absolutely stunning. She explains that she started loving gardening as a child after her mother signed up for a service that sent mystery seeds in the mail. She talks about how caring for plants felt like a reward because they gave love back when looked after the right way. And then comes one of the most beautiful metaphors I've ever come across. After Atlas talks about neglect, Lily points to a massive tree in the yard, an oak tree much larger than all the others around it. She explains that the tree grew practically on its own. Some plants need a lot of care, but others manage to survive even without help. The way she says this makes it obvious that she is trying to tell him something without saying it out loud. "You are strong." His reaction is so cute. Atlas just stares at the tree in silence for several seconds, as if nobody had ever recognized strength in him like that before. When he finally smiles, oh my goodness. Lily describes that smile almost as if something had awakened inside her. Then he says, "We're similar." Only this time, he isn't talking about plants and people, he is talking about the two of them. You can feel the exact moment their friendship begins to turn into something much deeper, you know? Now, I have to say, I love how the book manages to blend emotional delicacy with completely hilarious, typical teenage moments. Right after this deep conversation, Lily reminds Atlas that the fertilizer they're using is literally cow manure. Suddenly, the two of them are throwing compost at each other like two little kids. They fall onto the grass, laughing so hard they can barely breathe, completely covered in dirt and fertilizer. And Lily realizes something here. She is deeply attracted to him. I really like this part because it doesn't feel like an exaggerated, cinematic romance. It feels like real teenagers, that raw mix of nervousness, shyness, friendship, and discovery. But the lightness of the scene doesn't last long because winter keeps coming and Atlas is still living in that freezing house. Blood in the garage. The sweetness of that moment is interrupted by a brutal memory. There is a night, an event in her life described in her diary that is incredibly heavy emotionally. Lily starts another letter talking about what seemed like an ordinary night. She and Atlas were secretly watching the Ellen DeGeneres show while her mother came home early from work because of the snow. But then, her father arrives. The atmosphere shifts instantly. Lily shares that because her mother arrived early, her father got furious simply because she parked in his spot in the garage during a blizzard. Lily hears a noise, and when she goes outside, she sees her father strangling her mother against the hood of the car. You can feel fear entering the narrative the second he starts honking the horn angrily. It is terrifying how the book shows that, inside violent homes, absolutely anything can become a trigger for an explosion, even a parking spot. What happens next is hard to process. Lily hears her mother scream, runs to the garage, and the scene is horrific to imagine. I gotta say it here, guys, the book doesn't romanticize or soften a thing, seriously. Lily describes her father full of hatred, squeezing her mother's neck while she tries to breathe, and on pure impulse, Lily jumps onto his back trying to make him stop. But she ends up hurt. And the most painful part isn't even just the violence itself, it's what happens afterward. On the way to the hospital, with her forehead split open and needing stitches, her mother just tells her, "Say you fell on the ice." In that exact instant, Lily realizes a devastating truth. Her mother will never leave her father. Never. Lily's despair was so massive that she literally jumped on her father's back, hitting him to save her mother. The result? Her father threw her away with so much force that she cut her forehead and needed 9 stitches. I think the worst part isn't even the physical pain, guys. It's the fact that he left without even looking back. He didn't care to know how his daughter was doing, and it hurts even more because he was the one who put her in that state. When Lily realizes, with a profound sadness, that her mother will never leave him, she feels completely defeated. The next day, when Atlas sees the bandage on her forehead on the bus, he doesn't buy the lie about the fall. He shows his own scars on his arm and says, "I used to fall a lot too, Lily." There, without saying a single word about their abusers, they recognized each other in their pain. Frozen hands. The next day, she meets Atlas on the bus, and honestly, this scene completely broke me. She holds his hands and realizes they are frozen, literally frozen. Then she remembers that she forgot to give him the blankets because of the chaos the night before. Everything hits her all at once: the fear, the guilt, the sadness, the trauma of the hospital, and the freezing cold he endured alone in that house. She starts crying right there on the bus. But Atlas doesn't give a speech. He doesn't try to fix anything. He just holds her hands. Honestly, sometimes silent affection hurts a whole lot more than words, right? By this point, we see that Atlas's situation has become completely unsustainable. Lily discovers where he is living, and what she sees is heartbreaking. The abandoned house has no furniture, no heat, and a massive hole in the ceiling where the snow falls through. Atlas was sleeping on the freezing floor, using towels as blankets. Then comes another one of those scenes, because that night, Lily finally brings the blankets to Atlas's abandoned house. But when she walks in, reality hits her. There is no couch, no bed, no heat, practically nothing. Just the wind howling through the broken ceiling, snow invading the house, and towels on the floor serving as a bed. Her shock in the scene is incredibly powerful, because until then, she knew rationally that he was struggling, but seeing it in person is completely different. So, she makes an impulsive decision. She tells him to sleep in her bedroom. You can perfectly understand her internal conflict. She knows this could destroy everything if her parents find out, but she also knows that leaving him there would be way too cruel. Naturally, she chooses to help him. In an act of pure courage and desperation, Lily takes him to her room, knowing the danger she faces if her father finds out, but her humanity speaks louder. That night, lying in her room in silence, Atlas finally shares his story. He talks about his abusive stepfather, about being kicked out of the house at 18, about not being able to find a shelter, and about not being able to get a job without an address. We discover through Lily's diaries that Atlas left home simply because his parents didn't want him around anymore. She asks him directly why he wasn't living with them, since they were just teenagers at the time, and he answers with something extremely dry and sad. "Because they don't want me." The heaviest part is that he says it like someone who has already accepted that reality. Atlas also implies that he had already tried multiple ways to survive on his own, of course. He worked whenever he could, slept wherever possible, and carried a backpack with everything he owned in the world. He always seemed that kind of person who'd try not to be a bother, you know? That shines through his personality very strongly. Even when starving, he was extremely polite, calm, and intelligent. Lily even finds it strange, like how someone so gentle and articulate like him could be in that situation, you know? The book doesn't explain everything in exhausting detail, but it makes it very clear that Atlas came from a completely broken and neglectful family. His mother kept getting involved with abusive, unstable men, and Atlas ended up being practically discarded inside his own home. At a certain point, he just wasn't welcome there anymore, not because he did anything terrible, but because he was treated like a burden. His mother, for reasons only God knows, chose to cater to her current husband's demands and left poor Atlas out of the family. Atlas's biological father wasn't around, and his mother lived in toxic relationships. The current husband simply wanted nothing to do with Atlas. In fact, at one point, when Atlas went back to look for his mother because he truly had nowhere else to stay, she told him he couldn't remain there because of her husband. So Atlas grew up without support, safety, or any kind of protection for himself. Since he was so young, he didn't have many choices. At one point, he stayed with a friend, but that friend's family ended up moving because the father got a job somewhere else. This shows a lot about who Atlas was because he was always humble and highly aware of his situation. He is never portrayed as a rebellious kid or someone who ran away out of spite. Quite the opposite, I have to say. Even when indirectly invited to stay with that family, he realized he didn't want to be a burden to them, thanked them for their help, of course, like the polite young boy he was, but he chose not to go along when they moved. That was exactly when he ended up completely alone. And when he went to look for his mother again, with nowhere left to go, she practically turned her back on him and refused to help. And I really want to emphasize this right here. His mother turned her back on him. Again. The saddest part of it all is that Atlas was an incredibly intelligent, polite, and sensitive person. This makes the whole situation even more painful because he doesn't fit the stereotype of a troubled teen at all. The feeling the book gives is that he was a total victim of circumstances, a silent story of survival, rising from absolute abandonment. At this point, he was close to turning 18. That changes everything, because while someone is still a minor, there are social programs, youth shelters, state assistance, and foster systems. It seems Atlas did get some support while he was a younger teen, but as he approached 18, the system practically let go of his hand. He realized he was about to officially become an adult without a home, family, or any support. That's where the idea of military enlistment comes in. Atlas mentions joining the Navy, the United States Marine Corps, because in his logic, it didn't just represent serving his country, it represented survival. In his head, if he joined the armed forces, he would have a bed to sleep in, a salary, structure, purpose, and most importantly, he would have food. Oh my God, it gives me such heartache just thinking about someone who has nothing to eat. Unfortunately, this happens a lot in the US. Many vulnerable young people see military enlistment as a way out of extreme poverty or abandonment. But maybe it was also a chance to rebuild his life from absolute scratch. But Lily gets extremely indignant about this. She questions him. How can you want to serve a country that also turned its back on you? Because in her view, Atlas had been abandoned by everything, his family, the adults around him, the system, and even his own country. She couldn't understand where he found the strength to still want to fight for something like that. But then comes one of the strongest traits of his personality. Atlas was very clear and honest here. He answers that he didn't see it that way. He makes it clear that he didn't want to join the Navy out of blind patriotism or a dream of defending the country. He just wanted to survive, simple as that. But at the same time, he still wanted to build something out of his life, believing that a better future could exist for him. The way he views things is truly impressive. After Lily asks if he is being naive, Atlas gives a response that speaks volumes about his character. The country isn't to blame for what my family did to me. That might seem simple, but it is deeply profound. Even after being abandoned, hurt, and neglected, he didn't become a bitter person. He doesn't blame the whole world for his suffering, he doesn't crave revenge, and he doesn't want to make others suffer just because he did. I think that's exactly where we understand who Atlas really is. When something bad happens to someone, that is the exact moment their true character shows. In Atlas's case, even though he was completely broken, he still dreamed of changing his life, wanted to be someone, and believed in a future. He had every right to be angry at life, but the book shows the exact opposite. He was hurt, yes, but there was no malice inside him. Since his stepfather kicked him out and his mother wouldn't let him back in so as not to bother her husband, he says he is just trying to survive until he turns 18 so he can enlist in the Marine Corps. In this part of the book, Lily says he clearly had an answer for all of her questions. Not that she was interrogating him, but rather trying to help him find an alternative or a solution, but apparently, he had already exhausted every single possibility to get out of that situation. Atlas says something we should never forget. It's not the country's fault if my mother doesn't give a damn about me. He doesn't have hatred for the world. He just has an immense desire to be someone. Lily sits there listening to it all, feeling a deep anger rise against the injustice, the selfishness of his parents, and the coldness of people who prefer to judge rather than help. Honestly, this part hurts so much because everything he says feels absurdly real. He isn't on the streets because he doesn't want to work, or out of laziness, or by choice. He simply had his back turned on him by the people who were supposed to care for him the most. Lily realizes this completely, to the point where she begins to question everything her father taught her about poverty, homelessness, and deserving things. This is perhaps the most important part of the entire chapter. It's not just about romance, it's about empathy. It's about seeing humanity where the world usually sees only judgment. Thoughts? Wow, let me tell you. I don't think I was prepared for this part. We just came from all that drama with Lily and Ryle, and then bam, this heavy blow from Atlas. So, I think I have a few things to say. Alright, let's look at this. We closed this chapter that stirred so many emotions in us. I keep thinking, Atlas said he and Lily were similar. And now, years later, Ryle comes along and says she makes him want to be someone different. Through Lily's diaries, we see clearly who Atlas is, and how they were two extremely young people trying to survive different types of abandonment. Lily living in a home with constant violence, and Atlas trying to survive completely alone in a world that seemed to give up on him way too early. The most painful part is realizing how they both find comfort in each other, not because one saves the other, but because they both finally feel seen. On the bus ride back the next day, after the whole situation with Lily and her father, Atlas finally asks about the injury on her forehead. Lily tries to lie, repeating her mother's excuse, but Atlas simply rolls up his sleeve. He shows her his arms, and his arms are worse, covered in scars, burns, and old marks. Then he says, "I used to fall a lot too." Guys, that phrase completely destroyed me, because both of them understand exactly what the other is trying to say without needing to speak explicitly. In that moment, Lily realizes something very important. She is starting to repeat her mother's exact excuses. The way Atlas reacted to this shattered my heart. He says plants and people are similar, and explains that human beings also need to be loved the right way to grow properly. When they receive love, affection, and care, they bloom. But when they are neglected, they end up broken. You can feel the heavy personal weight of those words on him, and Lily understands that Atlas isn't just speaking about life philosophy, he is talking about himself. But now, I think she wants to believe that this relationship can bloom differently with Ryle. I thought the indirect connection the book makes here with everything she said earlier about her garden plants was beautiful. How some things, when given care, love, and attention the right way, manage to grow and bear fruit. In that moment, Lily seems to wish their relationship could be exactly that. Something imperfect, maybe even difficult, but at least something that still has a chance to bloom. But of course, if they both learn to love the right way. Well, if a right way even exists. But I really want to know your opinion on all of this. Because after everything Lily lived through at home, seeing her parents' relationship, I wonder to what extent that made her a strong person, and to what extent it also left her more emotionally vulnerable to certain types of relationships. Because whether we like it or not, we've already started to notice some of Ryle's behaviors that set off that little alarm in our heads, right? I'm not saying he's a bad person or trying to turn him into a simplistic villain, because I think the book is much more complex than that. But at the same time, you can see the emotional impact he has on Lily. Ryle seems to have an incredible intensity, and sometimes it feels like he can get inside her mind in a way that completely rattles her emotions, decisions, and even the boundaries she would normally set. This is very interesting to observe because, at times, Lily herself seems to act in ways she might not act under other circumstances, or perhaps wouldn't act with anyone else. I wonder if part of this is directly related to what she grew up witnessing at home. When we grow up watching complicated, intense, or emotionally confusing relationships, maybe certain things end up looking more normal, than they actually are. What do you guys think? Do you feel Lily can see Ryle clearly? Or do you think she is already emotionally involved to a level where she's starting to ignore things? Now, about Atlas. I really want to know what you felt when you found out he was living in that practically destroyed house, with snow coming through the ceiling, no heat, no bed, all just to keep going to school and graduate. Because look, I have to admit something to you that hit me hard. It even made me think about myself, because I was always the type of person who hated waking up early to go to school. Looking back, I can't deny that it was precisely there that some of the most important friendships of my life were born at the school. But the reason I'm saying this is because, when you're a teenager, I don't know if anyone else would have the same maturity Atlas had, So it's a bit of a tricky relationship, Because there's a huge difference between loving to learn and liking the school itself. When people hear you don't like school, they assume you don't like studying. But that's not true at all. And that's not even what I'm saying. Don't get me wrong. I actually love studying, but you don't necessarily need to be inside a traditional school to do that. You know what I mean? Speaking for myself, I guess I didn't enjoy going to school every day. But it's not that I didn't like the school itself, because that's where I made my best friends, like I said, whom I still keep and carry with me for life today. I mean more the fact of having to wake up early every single day, you know? Actually, I still don't like waking up early to this day. And having to go to the exact same place every day, wow, monotony is something that really throws me off. But my point here is this. Imagine if you were in the exact situation Atlas was in. And I keep wondering where this boy drew all that willpower from, even with his countless problems, because unfortunately, he didn't even have the basics, like food. He had absolutely nothing to eat. Being as young as Atlas was, I don't think I would even have the emotional maturity to see that far ahead. So just this huge detail, that is the fact that he still wanted to go to school despite everything. I gotta say that he already won some major points with me, you know? Okay, jokes aside, I want to step into another topic because this chapter touches on very delicate themes, and Atlas made me reflect deeply on this. Honestly, pausing for a moment to think about Atlas's life trajectory up to this point, I caught myself reflecting on something that goes way beyond a romance book. I wanted to talk to you about what truly defines who we are. Often, society tries to impose a destiny on us based on where we come from. There's this idea, almost like an invisible rule, that if you grow up without support, homeless, and neglected by those who should love you, your natural path would be delinquency, giving up on yourself, or turning against the world. But Atlas, he breaks that cycle in a way that left me speechless. Atlas grew up in a total vacuum of protection. His biological father? Absent. His mother? Trapped in toxic relationships and choosing her current husband over her own son. Imagine the pain of a teenager hearing that he can't stay at home because he bothers his stepfather. He was pushed out into the elements, literally. He lived on favors and endured the grief of being abandoned alive. And when the system, which should protect him until he's 18, starts letting go of his hand because of his age, he faces an abyss. No family, no money, no nothing. This is where I want us to look into this young man's soul. Atlas is intelligent, sensitive, and polite. Even though he is a victim of circumstances, he never took on the role of a troubled kid. He didn't choose the easy way out. He didn't become someone dangerous, and he didn't let hatred for life consume him. When he tells Lily he is going to enlist in the Navy, her reaction is one of indignation. She asks, how can you want to fight for a country that turned its back on you? In her view, the country, the system, and the adults all failed him. And Atlas's response is one of the most beautiful and mature things I have ever read. He isn't being a blindly blind patriot. He is being a survivor with an unshakable character. He says, the country isn't to blame for what my family did to me. Guys, stop and think about the depth of that. He separates the mistakes of individuals from the responsibility of the world. He doesn't want revenge. He doesn't want to watch the world burn just because his life was hard. He sees the military as a chance to have a bed, a salary, and above all, a purpose. He wants to be someone. He wants to build something, despite starting from absolute zero. And here I enter a point that I think is very important for us to discuss. It's very easy for us to point fingers at Atlas's mother, or even Lily's mother, and say they were bad or wrong. And yes, they failed. But my goal here isn't to kick them while they're down or just keep picking at their flaws. Do you know why? Because we never know the weight of the shoes someone else is wearing until we have to walk in them. It's easy to judge from the outside and say, I would never do that, but life is complex. Instead of focusing on their mistakes, I prefer to praise the good side that bloomed out of it all, Atlas's side. The fact that he had every reason to be a bitter, resentful person, yet chose to be grateful and hardworking. I know the environment influences people heavily, but Atlas is living proof that our essence can be stronger than our situation. He didn't become a criminal because society was cruel. He became a man of character because his core was greater than his pain. And that applies to Ryle too, if we stop to think about it. They're opposites in terms of privilege. One had everything, the other had nothing, but both carry their own weights. Ryle studies for hours on end, loses nights of sleep, and dedicates himself to exhaustion to save lives. Each fights their own battles. What I want to leave you with today is this reflection. What do we do with the pain we are given? Atlas received neglect and gave back the desire to protect and serve. He received abandonment and gave back humility. He doesn't blame his neighbor for what he suffered at home. He doesn't wish harm on those who hurt him. He just wants a chance to start over. To me, that is the greatest proof that, in the end, we are the ones who decide whether we will be victims of our past or the architects of our future. What about you? What do you feel when you see Atlas's maturity? Do you think he is an example that character is something we are born with, or do you think he is an exception to the rule? Tell me everything in the comments, because I really want to know your thoughts on this chapter. Let's share these ideas openly, without judgment, just trying to understand the complexity of these characters we love so much. Drop an emoji down below so you don't miss a single chapter of the story. If you're lost for words today, just leave me an emoji. Maybe an anchor to symbolize Atlas's strength and resilience, right? And don't forget to like the video and check if you're already subscribed to the channel if you aren't yet. I'll see you in the next chapter. It Ends With Us, a best-selling book by Colleen Hoover, so loved that it already has its own movie.
The story continues.
I'll be back soon. Make sure to like this video and leave me a comment, because I want to know your thoughts too. Share this video with someone you know who loves a good story. Make sure to subscribe too, because the next chapters are getting way more intense and more impossible to stop listening to. I'm sure you don't want to miss anything. Thank you so much for being here. Breathing Words, where every word comes to life. Your place to hear stories with voice and heart.